I'm Ellie, welcome back to the channel, and Season 2 of The Last of Us started staying surprisingly faithful to the game, even reaching the most important event that can be easily considered a fork in the road regarding the show's future. And on this video we're going to talk about where those might eventually lead. If you never played The Last of Us, that makes two of us because I've never owned a PlayStation, and by the time they port the game to PC, they remastered it like 3 times and made each version of effectively the same game cost $70. So yeah. And then we have The Last of Us 2, which divided the fandom between those who think it's the best game ever made and those who think it flat out killed the franchise, and it's a massive shit stain in terms of storytelling and gender representation, mainly given that Neil Druckmann apparently is very big on androgynous looking women. Not the gameplay. The gameplay apparently is pretty solid. But let's talk about the new season so far, and spoilers if you haven't watched it. Episode 1 of Season 2 starts showing off a recast Ellie that looks just like the in-game version, so I'm really happy with the change. That's not Ellie. What? Yeah, that's Abby. That's Abby? Where are all the muscles? Yeah, it turns out that finding a huge, yoked-out actress to play a survivalist bodybuilder in the apocalypse is a bit harder than it sounds. Not impossible, mind you. But in saying that, I reckon that Caitlin Denver is doing an amazing job as a more feminine, vulnerable and vindictive Abby. We are shown more of why she's after Joel, and she plays out her revenge plot very closely, with some changes to the game version, but so far she's proven to be my favorite change in this season. The rest of the merry gang of Fireflies also seem to stick very closely to their in-game counterparts, and look, is space lesbian Spike. Look, I have no problem with this chick as an actress, I think she's great in You, but much like Pedro Pascal, she's on that Hollywood party juice, and that just goes straight to your head.
And then as far as with non-binary and transgender, I hope that we just start seeing that the future is here whether we like it or not. We need to not just accept it, but embrace it.
No, I don't think I will.
Where was I? Right. Ellie in the second game grew up a bit and fermented the feelings she had knowing that Joel effectively lied to her, for her own good, I might add. She would be lying on a petri dish if it wasn't for him. So the resentment of any angsty teen towards their parent is multiplied by those feelings, making her a bit antagonistic towards Joel. But because Bella can't act with that level of subtleness, she comes out as plain offensive towards Pedro, who's even put through a therapy session in this episode. Very modern touch of them.
Hey! Don't.
Get the hell out of here.
Get your hands off me.
Hey!
Enough.
Let's get you some fresh air.
You alright, kiddo?
What is wrong with you?
He had no right.
And you do? I don't need your fucking help, Joel.
Right.
No.
Get the hell out of here.
Let's take a walk. Come on.
Are you okay?
What is wrong with you? I don't need your fucking help.
Right.
On top of her performance being very butchy and dismissive of the fact that the world ended, the visual contrast of her not looking at all like Ellie, especially during this time where Ellie's starting to look less like a little girl and more like a young woman, something that Bella does not, is even more exacerbated with them pairing her with Isabella Merced as her new love interest, Dina. I saw a funny tweet that said, when she's out of your league, and yeah. But if the lack of visual resemblance wasn't enough, episode 1 spends 50% of its runtime gassing up Bella/Ellie as if she was the most polished turd in the outhouse. And they didn't thought of a better way to portray that she's a badass than making her spar with a mastodon of a man, literally a 6'4", easily 230 pounds Neolithic looking motherfucker who punches her square in the face, then drags her across the floor, but ends up being submitted by the equivalent of a very small little boy, who very cuntily taps him in the back and hits him with a
Boom, motherfucker.
Catchphrase.
no one believes that's possible. Not even the creators of the show, because the very next scene is Bella whining to the two dudes after they tell her that Bigfoot was pulling his punches in order not to kill her, and she actually gets upset telling them not to do that. Unfair. In an actual life scenario, she could take that guy down with a gun. If she were to be disarmed, however, there's no chance in hell she doesn't end up beaten to a very thin paste. and feminist writers hate that that's a fact. Further nailing down the concept of inflated feminism is the presence of Maria Miller, Tommy's wife and a member of the Council of Jackson. No, not that one, the race swap one, which is a very subtle change by the way. This chick, who doesn't know how to blink, does nothing in this episode other than to hassle the men around her into working harder while she leads. She clearly still has some baby weight on her after the time skip. The only problem comes when we see the baby, who is almost 10 years old. Now, the scene where this overblown sense of female empowerment stood out for me was when Ellie, being Bella, is told to obey her patrol captain and not get involved in any dangerous situations. So what does she do? Disobey her patrol captain and get herself in a dangerous situation alongside Dina, which ended up with her getting bitten and discovering a smart infected. After reporting this, she obviously gets in trouble for doing the one thing she was told not to do, further driving down the fact that the character that Bella is portraying takes the end of the world very fucking lightly. Tommy questioning them about the incident with his wife next to him brings out the fact that they disobey an order. They excuse themselves, saying that they've killed infected before and that this is no different than if him or Joel would have done it, to which he obviously says it is. And to that, his wife turns to him, questioning why is it different. They are twice the size of them, they both serve, they have more experience, and they are men, meaning that they can punch harder and take more hits. Why is this even a question? It's the end of the world and shit is pretty much black and white. No pun intended. This little moment, as well as her telling Joel, fucking build faster cause we need to let more people in, hashtag refugees welcome, tells me everything I need to know about what the writers were focusing in when writing her character. She sucks. And so does Bella. The second episode is where shit hits the fan. Changes that I like, much like Abby's, was the attack on the settlement by the infected. Much like episode 3 of the last season, I love seeing the survival strategies placed to fight the cordyceps, so that was a really cool change with some action-packed scenes. Back to Joel, who's with Dina instead of Tommy this time, and who very randomly run into the new Abby, who convinced him to hold up the storm in the cabin, where he gets jumped, tortured, and eventually killed. Now the tone of this scene changed a bit from the game. This time they have the added tension of him not knowing the fate of Jackson and Tommy, but just like in the game, Ellie finds them just a little too late. Abby kills him, and the episode fades to black with the trio pulling Joel in a body bag back to the settlement. Now, I really like this episode, much more than the first one, and the reason I think that is because there's a lot less Bella in it. And it's actually also the highest rated one on IMDb. And here's where I think the series can go one of two ways. Much like The Walking Dead, losing a major character like Joel could plummet the show's viewership, especially now that it falls on the shoulders of Bella to carry the series. Despite Pedro Pascal's occasional mental issues, he has been the A-lister that drew eyes to the show, and unlike The Walking Dead that still had the rest of their main card still alive after Glenn's death, Joel dying takes away the very foundation of the series, same as it happened in the game, and it all falls into Ellie, which, if the show carries the same way as the game did, might not be well received for the people who don't know what happens next. There's gonna be loads of flashbacks calling back to previous events, much like they did in season 1, so Joel is still going to be around, kind of. But still, if it falls into Bella carrying the plot, much like her standalone episode last season, it's going to suck a lot. Road 2 is that by some miracle she finds her acting chops and starts playing the character well, and Caitlin also pulls some of the weight of the show alongside with her. There's a big section of the game where the character takes on the role of Abby, which was wildly controversial to a lot of the player base beyond the point of Abby's appearance, because the game pretty much forced them to play as what they saw as the enemy. But Kate's proven to be a really good fit for the role, so I reckon that if that's the case, she'll do a very good job. Which is incredibly ironic, considering how much more like Ellie she looks in comparison to Bella. But there's still the caveat that this show, much like the game, don't clearly establish an antagonist. Unlike the show, the reasoning for Abby's revenge are not explained before she kills Joe, but afterwards as you play as her. Regardless, Joel was the main protagonist. You play as him 90% of the time. The story starts with his loss and his mission to save the ones he loves. The problem then lies that now that we're going into Ellie's revenge arc, while also dealing with the fact that Joel's death was a result of his own actions, we are being forced to choose a side. The thing is, no matter how justified Abby's motivations are, and I read this on Twitter and I very much agree with it, we want to be on Joel's side, cause his motivations, albeit selfish to protect the ones he's close to, which in this case is Ellie, who we are also very fond of, are what we are familiar with. The true antagonist is whoever goes against Joel. If that means that all the Fireflies have to go, along with the potential cure for the cordyceps, so be it. So the show is going to end after this season. There is no The Last of Us 3 after killing Joel, and Naughty Dog knows it, so unless HBO pulls a sneaky and breaks it up to milk more money, it's not a matter of if it's going to end, but how is it going to end? Is it going to be a bomb, or is it gonna do well? Last season was a mixed bag. It was faithful to an extent, with some really weird changes and a very clear LGBTQ focus with episode 3 and 7 that pulled away from the main storyline. Last of Us 2 is not a short game. Lots of stuff happened and the tension is at an all-time high right now, and the creators cannot afford to pull away from it, especially now that they lost their main star. I really like some parts of the show. Other parts like Bella, Black Maria and all those feminist power trips stand out like a sore thumb cause they are not very well written, and apparently that's all we're gonna get from now on, so I don't know how much more I'm gonna stick with it. So I guess we'll see with episode 3. But if you watched this final video, leave us a like, let me know in the comments down below what do you think about the season 2 of The Last of Us so far. And as always, I've been Nacho, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.